and welcome back to Parenting Unpacked. You're here with Dr. Siobhan Kennedy Costantini and Dr. Kristen Summer. I'm real sick of saying doctor so many times.
But no one else says it because it kind of means nothing, so we need to use it when we can.
We truly do, because like even in my workplace, no one calls me Dr. Kristen. The only people that call me Dr. Kristen are my followers.
Oh, really?
No, my first years call me professor, even though I am not a professor. That is like a very prestigious title.
You have to
be kind.
You have to have a position for like 20 years before you can become professor. Although in America, I think you're a professor a lot younger.
A lecturer is an assistant professor in America. But anyways, like predatory publishing places also call me professor or dear esteemed professor. Anyways. Professor. When I don't use the term doctor, my followers get mad because they don't know who I am, because I am Dr. Kristen to them. So, hello, Dr. Kristen, Dr. Siobhan, at your pleasure for today's episode of Parenting Unpacked. Siobhan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I have learned my lesson, and mind you, it will take me. I have to always learn it. I love coffee so much. It doesn't love me as much. I can usually tolerate one double shot in the morning and then a single shot mid-morning and after that. And then yesterday I was a fool and I was like, I haven't had enough coffee. I love coffee. I'm going to have one at 3 p.m., a double. Big mistake. That was stupid. I knew it would be bad, but I'm a rebel without a cause. So I was just on edge and real fidgety and unpleasant all afternoon. Although I'm glad I had the coffee because my sister-in-law, who is a plastic surgeon, had a disaster of a day yesterday and was supposed to be home at 4 p.m. and didn't get home until 7 p.m. because there were issues with surgeons not showing up, and so she was doing operations safely by herself that she would have normally had someone to help her with, so everything took longer than it otherwise did. And then my brother, who's a teacher, had to do parent-teacher interviews, so they needed someone to come and watch their little ones for a couple of hours while they tried to make life work. So I was looking after 3 kids under 5 during the witching hour. But it was kind of fine. It was fine. I had that reaction when I agreed to it. But it was fine. They all played really well. The only people that squabbled were my nephews, who are brothers, and they squabble all the time. They just kept fighting over a blanket, even though there were 7 blankets to choose from. They wanted the same one.
Sounds right.
Yeah, exactly. But no, everything was great. Everyone was largely well behaved. Everyone was happy. It was wonderful. We watched a weird, I don't know if people who saw it on my stories, a weird like Netflix kids show about anthropomorphized cats and the cat kingdom. And then my 5-year-old nephew was like, is the cat kingdom in real life? And I'm like, I don't know, buddy.
No,
maybe.
I really hope not.
Anyway, no, so it was good. So the coffee, whilst not good for my mind in the sense for my anxiety, it was good for keeping me awake and on top of dealing with 3 small male children.
Wow. I mean, I can see what you mean by like it's like fine. It's usually really good because my kid is just a different kid when she's around her cousins, even if we've got all of them and they're like hectic, like everyone's yelling, throwing things around the house, and like we've got the fun house because we just don't care. People can eat on the rug, like that's fine, and like we paint on the floor and we paint on the windows, like everything can be cleaned, so we don't really care. They get really hyped up. But like my daughter is so much easier because she's got her cousins to play with and she just loves them so much, and they keep her entertained, and like
they occupy each other.
Exactly, like this. I think this is why people think that it's okay to have multiple children. Like you have another one to entertain the first one, but like, hey, that novelty wears off and takes a couple of years to kick in. So that's why cousins are amazing to have come over every now and then. But like having siblings means you've got 2 dependents now, not 1. So that is also a thing.
It's not as simple as, but it is a benefit in that they do occupy each other some of the time, and that can be for better and worse.
Absolutely. Sometimes they can get up to really like mischievous things together. So if it's quiet, that's always a concern. But you said you can generally tolerate coffee. I cannot. I can't even tolerate a single shot of coffee at all in the day. I can have a decaf coffee, which still has a tiny amount of caffeine, but that's it. And I didn't know this about myself until after my postnatal anxiety when I cut it out. Now when I have coffee, I can be okay if I have it one morning, but then if I have it 2 mornings in a row, I'm anxious for a week. Like, it is something that really messes with my nervous system. And that's, I don't understand the science behind it. I don't know if you do, Siobhan, but conveniently we are actually talking about the nervous system today. So this is a wonderful segue. We didn't plan, yet somehow it managed to work out. Around. Wonderful.
Yeah, so the reason we are talking about this is that I have, actually it's a few-fold. So I did a series of stories on my Instagram about heart rate variability, because I have purchased and have started to use a heart rate variability training device. So let's do a bit of a background about what that all is. So basically, we have our autonomic nervous system, which is, in a nutshell, let me get a good and accurate, obviously I know off the top of my head, but I will.
And wait, Siobhan, before we lose all our listeners, can we talk about how this relates to parenting and why we need to know this kind of stuff? Because everyone's like, oh my God, she's using big words, this is boring. So why is this important?
Totally. So I believe, and obviously there are variations of opinions, but probably one of the best things we can do for our children is be well regulated. So parenting is inherently stressful. Interacting with other humans can be stressful. And our children really benefit when they are confident that their parent and or parents are in control, and there's a plan, they know what's happening, and it's predictable and comfortable. So one of the ways that we can ensure that this is our children's reality is by being a calm, stable presence in their lives. However, as I just said, parenting can be really stressful. Toddlers and or babies screaming in your face for hours at a time, not fun or pleasant. So one of the ways that we can try and maintain that calm is by learning how to be very well regulated. So in the face of stress, learning to stay balanced. And also when we are more balanced and more calm, we're able to enforce boundaries more clearly, which helps our children feel like someone's in control and that there's a plan. A phrase that I learned recently that I really love is big fields, real fences. So the idea that gentle parenting is about kids have a lot of freedom, but they know where the fences are, and they know that those fences are real. They can't climb over them. They can't push them down.
That is a phenomenal metaphor, analogy, visualization. Wow.
And so for boundaries or rules that are more inconsistently held, you can think of it as like kids being cooped up in this tiny space, and there's all these fences, but they test them constantly because they don't know which ones they're allowed to climb over when. They try to kick them down. So it's just like, of course you're going to test something if you don't know it's real. Whereas if the boundaries, when you have few boundaries, but they're firmly held, as is recommended in the gentle parenting technique or authoritative parenting technique, kids have a lot of freedom, but they know where the lines are, which really helps their development because they, boundaries are really important. And we need these as adults. Like, it's helpful in our relationships, in our workplaces, in our lives, to know where the rules are, what's okay, what's not okay. Anyway, circle back. It's easier to parent and discipline our children when we ourselves are calm and regulated. I mean, how often, like, the times in my own parenting and life where I'm less proud of my actions are when I'm highly stressed or tired or anything else that's making it hard to stay calm. So the way our nervous system is kind of a collective, loose term to describe our ability to regulate our emotions and our physiological states, so our body states. So the autonomic nervous system is basically it's our nervous system. It's a combination. It has three branches, but two that we'll be talking about today: the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's how our nerves convey information to our organs, our brain, our everything. It's how our body communicates information. So it's related to our heart rate, our breathing rate, and it's also like when we think of fight or flight, this is what's activated. Our sympathetic nervous system is the definition of fight or flight or freeze. So when we get, like if, for example, we're driving a car and we hear a siren or a really loud honking noise, you kind of get that, oop, and then you turn around to look what's happening. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze sensation. So in our evolution, it's really helpful, in theory, to if we're fighting, we're taking on whatever the threat is. If we're fleeing, we're running away from the threat. Then there's freeze, which is less often talked about, which is kind of playing dead in the hopes that it will leave us alone. And these are beneficial in some instances, but when it comes to anxiety and traumatic or unhealthy stress, a lot of the time either our system is overactive. So we respond too readily to threats that aren't real or perceived threats. So something that our body has decided is a threat, regardless of how accurate or threatening it is. So, did you have anything to add to that general gist?
No, I think that is phenomenal. I think we talk about this all the time. I use the term dysregulated. I mean, I have a shirt like in my merch for good like section on my website, which is literally like dysregulated in like big bold type, and that's it. That's all that's on the shirt. And there's one for kids and there's one for adults, because it's what we talk about all the time. When you are dysregulated, you cannot regulate a dysregulated child, because a dysregulated child hasn't got the prefrontal cortex capacity in order to self-regulate, so they need co-regulation. And how are you going to regulate through co-regulation with your dysregulated child if you are also dysregulated? So we spend a lot of time here talking about this and focusing on it internally for ourselves to make sure that we are staying regulated by caring for ourselves in a bunch of different ways. And that looks different depending on how busy you are and what you do. Some people take lots of time to themselves. They have, like, I think Big Little Feelings talks about the like solo mama staycay where they go to a hotel for a couple of days just by themselves. Oh, nice. Yeah, I know, right? That sounds like a dream, but my anxiety wouldn't let me do that. My kid would not sleep for 2 days.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Maybe just the day. Like, we'll just get a hotel for the day. But anyways, there's so many different ways you can do it, but there's also like breathing and things like that. But I think, Siobhan, you're about to tell us all about how we can come back to a point of regulation and how the heart rate variability kind of works into that.
Yeah, so I, as I said in my stories, I came about this idea of a heart rate variability training device a few different ways. So Natalie from Highly Sensitive Families, she's one of my favorite people on Instagram. She and I had similar first year experiences with our little one. Her little boy had colic. My little one had gastroesophageal reflux disease. So just screamed non-stop for the first year of his life. Not non-stop. There was some slight instances of non-screaming. But actually, my husband and I were looking at photos of him when he was little the other day. And obviously, we didn't take many photos of him when he was screaming. Most of his photos are when he's calm. And even then, he has a look of pain on his face. And it was just so heartbreaking. And he was medicated and we were doing everything we could, but he wasn't a well baby. It was heartbreaking, but also kind of validating that we didn't imagine it. He wasn't having a good time, and neither were we. But anyway, no, exactly. Anyway, so I reached out to her a lot because she would talk about the trauma of parenting an unwell child and how that affects you as a parent. And I found so many conversations with her really validating. Anyway, she had a live chat with a chiropractor who works with HeartMath, which is the company that has designed this trainer, this device that I have purchased. And they were talking all about how you can learn to regulate your response. And the cool thing is, like, and I love this about Western science, in that in this instance, it seems to me that what Western science has done is that we've taken what those cool cats in the East have been doing for millennia and gone, oh, it turns out it works.
What, meditation?
Yeah, pretty much. So other ways that you can, yeah, I know, it's the best. Other ways that you can regulate your heart rate variability is, so to break it down, HRV, heart rate variability, is the variance or the difference in the space between heartbeats. So in general, heartbeats, exactly. So in general, heartbeats are very regular. However, there's slight differences in how much, like minute differences in how much space there is between your heartbeats. And the higher that variance is, or the more different changing those numbers are in between your heartbeats, that indicates a more regulated, a healthier, a more balanced body state. So people who have low heart rate variance tend to have higher incidences of diabetes, more likely to be obese, more likely to have ineffective stress responses. People with PTSD have very, very low heart rate variability. So, and it's also connected with how quickly you come out of stress states. So, for example, I'm a lot better now, but previously, one of my triggers is sirens and loud cars, because they would wake Timo up because he was always in such a light sleep because he was in pain. So he woke up very easily, and we lived on a main road, and motorbikes would rev their engines. He would wake and start screaming, and I would fall apart because I'd spent 2 hours trying to get him to sleep, and it was all going to happen again. So I 2 years later, I still react poorly to them.
Mine is dog barks.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a dog.
You have a dog, sure.
That barks a lot. So does my husband. We both get extreme stress responses to the dog barking, and it's part of the reason we moved house, to get him away from the house that triggers his barking so much. Turns out, though, he just has like a resting amount that he likes to bark, because he now barks at nothing in the new house. Anyways, we're getting over it. Anyways, moving on.
Figuring it out. Yes, so I had a train of thought that I have lost.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm not that sorry.
I was talking about... No, good. Perfect. That works for me. Anyway,
so you're talking about sirens and how they trigger your stress response.
Yes. So I used to just go into full-blown panic attack, and I would be in a heightened stress state for half the day. Now it's maybe like 15 minutes, which is in my mind still too long, because I literally live on a main road and it happens constantly. So I wanted to try and learn how to control and reduce that. Because it's not that debilitating. Like, I'm sure I could live life, but if it can be better, why not try?
Yeah. So, what's our mantra? Thrive, not survive.
Exactly. Love it. So there's lots of ways you can do that. Like, you don't need a device. I just wanted to. But so, like, ways you can do it more.
We love numbers.
Exactly. You can do it, like, meditation is been, like, research, like, evidence has shown that meditation can improve your heart rate variability. What's it called? Martial arts. Things like Tai Chi, things like Qigong.
Yoga,
all types of martial arts. Yoga, there's heaps of research on yoga. Meditation in general. All of these things have been shown, like, scientifically through Western-based scientific method to improve your heart rate variability. So, and just exercise in general as well, but those things specifically. So I've been running because my husband trail runs, and he's been gently encouraging me to do this forever. I finally started in the last 6 months or so taking it seriously, and I'm really enjoying it, which my face doesn't and my voice doesn't sound like I am, because I don't identify as a runner, like, ew, but I love it. It's gross, but I really like it.
I'm very proud of you.
Oh, I told my grandma, and she's like, why? And I'm like, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm like, I agree with you, Grandma. I know. But this, anyway.
But Grandma, like, endorphins really, like, counteract that, like, negative effects of anxiety. I don't know, do they interact with serotonin? Like, you know how we, like, I'm on a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, but you're on a norepinephrine?
I'm on SNRI, yes. Serotonin and norepinephrine, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
But anyways.
yes, so I've only done 2 sessions with this trainer, and there's
The heart rate
I
variability.
asked my Instagram people whether that's something they're interested in hearing more about. So I'm going to update everyone as I go along. So I've done 2 sessions. I did 1 session with the guided meditation, and I maintained coherent, is what they call it when you have like high heart rate variability. I maintained coherence. I mean, I did really intentional breathing the whole time, so that was exciting. But I could get into the green zone, which is where you want to try and get. And then I decided to do a baseline where I just clipped it on and went about my day for 5 minutes without doing my meditative breathing. And it wasn't too bad. I expected it to be worse, but it was about 30% dysregulated, 30% moderate, and then 30% regulated. So,
oh my God,
better than I thought, but there's room for improvement.
I shudder to think what mine would look like.
Oh,
I really do.
Come to Brisbane, and you can it's a little ear thing. You can shove it on with, and you can see.
Wait, it goes in your ear?
Yeah, apparently it's.
You can get interbeat intervals from your ear?
Yeah.
So, like, here's the thing. Like, one, I wish I knew about this, like, years ago, because it's taken me a long time to even get on board with breathing. And, like, someone had to really explain the science behind how breathing out longer than you breathe in activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Because if you breathe too fast, your sympathetic nervous system is activated, and that's your fight or flight mode. And parasympathetic is your chill mode. So I wish someone had told me that beforehand, because I'm the gadgety person, and I'm really shocked that you have a gadget that I don't. Because I program robots for like a living.
I'll send you the link. Actually, you have a huge following. Yeah. Reach out to HeartMath.
FYI, guys, this podcast is not sponsored by HeartMath.
Do you know what? Yes. You'll love this. The hilarious thing is that I found it. The website doesn't deliver to Australia directly, so I had to get it through a company that it all worked out. But the best thing is, so the marketing is all like hippy dippy, like weird,
damn.
Like, and it's okay though, because the device itself works.
I know, but they're not doing themselves any favors. They should be trying to get the people like me.
You'd think so, right? But like the hilarious thing, I went onto the site after having done all of my research into the science of it all. But if I'd only gone to their website, I'd be like, nah, because it's all about like coherence and inner balance and like heart.
Oh my God.
And which
that's the fluffy stuff of mindfulness that I don't like, and like
that's exactly right.
I need the science.
I'll have you check out the website, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But the science is sound. Like it's
yeah.
Anyway, so it's all of the science behind breathing, why breathing works, because it taps into our vagal tone. So I'll give a bit of a spiel of the notes that I wrote, just to have all our science-minded people have a bit of the science behind how and why it works. So heart rate variability is the physiological phenomenon of variation in the time interval between our heartbeats. So like I said earlier, so it's the variation between the beat to beat intervals. The higher it is, the more regulated and balanced your emotional responses and your general body health tends to be. So it's a really good index and a way to measure how our nervous system is responding to external information from the world. So it's been shown to be relevant in emotion regulation, decision-making, attention, and you tend to be better in all of those situations the higher your HRV is. The lower your HRV is, you tend to have less effective attention, poorer decision-making, and poorer emotion regulation. So this is also...
chronically anxious people, that brain fog you're experiencing, it can go away.
Exactly. So vagal tone, so our vagus nerve is a nerve in our neck and head, and actually runs all the way through our body and is highly connected to and linked with most of our organs. And so it is a really good way to kind of understand. Vagal tone is, it represents the activity of the vagal nerve. So it's a biological process. It's a way to describe how our vagus nerve is responding to things. So increasing vagal tone is more likely to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our chill mode. So when we activate our vagal nerve, accurate. It's what tells our body, calm down, there's no more threat. Like, we can go back to doing the things that aren't totally essential for survival, like digesting food. So when one of the reasons if you're really, really anxious or stressed about things, often your hunger goes away because your body's like, great, supreme threat happening. Let's not worry about digestion or hunger because we need to just survive right now. So we don't need to be worrying about trying to feed you because we need you to survive in this minute. We don't care whether you're going to survive in the next couple of weeks.
And your gut is being like there's like an influx of serotonin just being like smashed into your gut because there are serotonin receptors in your stomach, which is also why anxious bellies are a thing. Anyways.
Absolutely. Perfect example. So increasing vagal tone activates our chill mode. Having higher vagal tone means that your body can come down from stress faster. It means you're more easily able to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. You're more easily able to tell your body, okay, time to calm down now. So, like I said, low heart rate variability, low vagal tone is often a sign of either current or future health issues because your body is less resilient to facing struggles and then coming down from challenges once you've experienced them. So, research has shown that yoga, meditation, all these things, particularly long-term use or long-term practice, have better vagal tone, which makes sense. The more you practice something, the better at it you are. And that's exactly the logic of this heart rate variability trainer in that basically it's biofeedback. So I could do everything I'm doing with this trainer just by meditating 3 times a day or twice a day or once a day. The key difference for me is that this gives me a replicable way of measuring my data. As Kristen says, we're nerdy gadget numbers people, and we like to be able to measure these things. So obviously, and if I just did meditation and wrote down how I felt, that would be another way of doing it. But this is a really cool way for me to track the actual stats of how my body is responding. And as I shared in my stories yesterday, one of the things that I had struggled with is that in therapy, I'd done lots of talking and exploring which was important for me, exploring my trauma response and my experience of postnatal anxiety and depression. And that's really valuable. But one thing I struggled with was that even though I was happy to talk and share and really comfortable with how and why things happened the way they did, my body still reacted like haywire. Things went crazy every time I heard a siren, every time I heard a baby crying. I just couldn't calm my body down, even though I would be like, it's okay. It's like I'd do all of the positive affirmations and the self-talk and all of the CBT strategies that my therapist and I had worked with, but my body was still losing it. And in this book that I've been reading, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, it's all about how trauma is a physiological and a psychological issue, that the body retains the experience of stress. And so you can do all of the talk therapy in the world that you want to, but you need to focus on your physiological responses. And he talks about heart rate variability training. He does say that yoga is probably better, I imagine, because of the exercise as well. But I don't have time to do running and yoga. And I'm a nerd and I wanted to do something cool and techy. So,
and I think
what I'm doing.
I think one of the important things to know about like the body holding onto trauma as well is that it's the neural pathway is strengthened. So the reason that a trigger is so quick and so effective at like freaking you out is because that neural pathway has been used over and over and over again, and it's really strong and it's really short. So it happens really quickly. And I guess when people say they need to break a habit or a behavior, they actually need to break that neural pathway so that it's not as easy to connect
strengthen
trigger to behavior. Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely a thing. And I really like this idea of the heart rate variability because it'll work for the people that want to see something actually happening. For a lot of people, mindfulness is just like this like change in life. It's like, like you've got fad diets that are meant to be quick fixes, and then you've got like long-term behavioral change. With anxiety and things like that, mindfulness is this long-term behavioral change where you can't actually see it happening. And the short-term behavioral change is benzodiazepines. because they just flatten you immediately, right? Like, and we don't, not ideal. We don't take those unless it's for acute situations, and we don't want to rely on them because, hey, they're really addictive and they're not good for our bodies. Mindfulness, much better, but you can't see the work that mindfulness is doing over a long period of time. You can't even see it happen during the one mindfulness session, and you can feel it, but also people don't have that level of introspection, especially when they're living in such a heightened state of anxiety. So having something to look at, see how those numbers change within like a 5-minute first session can be really motivating. Seeing things can be super motivating for humans. This is like really basic human psychology, like, so like, I don't know, first year like behavioral psychology, I don't know what it is, but this can be really helpful. So I'm shocked that I hadn't heard about it before.
Happy to introduce you. Yeah, I know. I imagine you'll have one
baffled.
next week.
I have a problem.
It's fine. You have your vices, we all do. But yeah, so that you're exactly right, and that's what I'm really interested in. Partly because I'm really keen on the numbers and meditate. So I meditated a lot during my pregnancy, and I found it so beneficial, and fully intended to continue it, but the wheels fell off so hardcore.
They always do.
Oh, totally. So yeah, I'm really keen to get back into it, and yeah, I'm really interested to see and like track it as it changes.
Yeah, I'm keen to find out
as it
more.
changes.
It will change because you're now getting like, you're building a habit, you're building this process. Like, it's working for me too, but like, I'm not using the heart rate variability, so it's taken me a long time to even come around to it. And I still haven't quite made it a habit to do like guided meditations every day. But when I do, like, I learn new like skills to help my body calm down every time I do a guided meditation. So yeah, it's just like another mantra to tell myself, like, telling myself I am calm, I am safe, I am like in control of my anxiety when I start to feel it careen and I start to feel my thoughts like become negative and overwhelmed. Even that's just enough. So like coupling that with like numbers that actually show you how it works. I'm really interested to see your review in a few weeks or months to see how it goes.
Yeah. No, I look forward to sharing.
Very cool. Woohoo. Well, Siobhan, I think that might be us for today.
I think so.
We're very good at keeping them short at the moment. I'm proud of us.
I know. Me too.
I hope you guys are proud too. Let us know if you want them longer, or if you like the short hot takes we've been doing, because we are very confused about what we actually like doing. So yeah, maybe you should tell us, because we have an Instagram now, and you can slide into our DMs there. It's at Parenting Unpacked Podcast. We've technically got a TikTok too, but I should be better on it, but I'm not.
Oh, you've got enough plates going up in the air.
I spin a lot of plates at once. This is very true. But anyways, we will catch you in the next episode or on our socials, where we are forever posting content in your faces. Yeah. Until next time.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.